A pleasant day, everyone. For today, we will be talking about generative phonology, contrast in identical environment, and contrast in analogous environment. Okay, so let's recall. We have here a pair of slash. We have here brackets. So which do you think would use the slash? Will it be the phone or the phoneme? Yes, it would be the phoneme. Now, if we have phones will just be placed inside brackets. So don't forget that phonetic representation is also called the surface representation of sounds, while phonemic representation would be called the underlying representation of a sound. Okay, so now phonetically similar segments. Still remember about minimal pairs? So phonetically similar segments are two or more sounds which share phonetic features and are frequently found as variants of a single phonological unit in a language. For example, in the word city, the t sound somewhat like letter T and the sound city would be allophones of the t sound. So an allophone would be the variation or variations of a single sound. For minimal pairs, you have to be familiar with or phonetically similar segments, you have to be familiar with how they become similar or how they differ from one another. Let's say, and b, there, and b. They are similar in a way that they are both bilabials, but they differ in what? In voicing. Because the sound is voiceless while the b sound is voiced. How about and the sound is voiceless, the sound is voiceless as well. So they are similar, but they differ on the place of articulation and manner of articulation. Take a look at your IPA. What about and? So both are voiceless. So they are similar in a way that they are both voiceless, but they differ in the place of articulation. Moving on. So last time we talked about vowel lengthening, vowel nasalization, nasal deletion, flapping, and aspiration. For vowel lengthening, the vowel becomes lengthened in an environment that it occurs before a voiced consonant. For vowel nasalization, the vowel becomes nasalized when it occurs before a nasal consonant. For nasal deletion, suppose that the vowel becomes nasalized because of the nasal consonant, therefore we have to drop the nasal consonant. For flapping, this occurs when there is a stressed and unstressed vowel. For aspiration, the h sound, so that would be true for the letter P, the p, t, g, 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 or letter P, letter T, letter K, letter G, letter B. Only found in the initial position of a word. Are you familiar with these people, with these phases? The first is Noam Chomsky, the father of modern linguistics. The second is Ferdinand de Saussure, father of linguistics. Again, Noam Chomsky is the father of modern linguistics, while the father of linguistics in general is Ferdinand de Saussure. Working with Noam Chomsky was Maurice Hale, who proposed, together with Noam Chomsky, Maurice Hale, the third person, the third picture here. He worked with Noam Chomsky on generative phonology. Okay, it was initially developed in 1950s and 1960s with Chomsky, with Hale, building upon ideas developed in the first half of the 20th century by Ferdinand de Saussure, by Bloomfield, by Vogelin. Alright. So, a while ago we talked about the underlying representation and the surface representation. The surface representation is here with brackets like sitting. The underlying representation is seating. Okay, now, it's not just a static link. The relationship between URS and SRS is not just a static link. So URS are treated as inputs to a process that generates the SRS as output. The model is designed to mimic how language would work. We begin with some mental representation of a word in our mind, then later on we articulate the word. Okay. Now, look at these contrasts. We have the contrast in identical and contrast in analogous environment. A contrast in identical environment is CIE. Sorry for this. And the contrast in analogous environment is CAE. So contrasts would definitely be found in identical environments where differences between two phonetically similar segments would be evident, occurring in two separate words and have identical adjacent sounds. For example, look at this. This is called a contrast in identical environment. Look at the L sound for lip and S sound for sip. Both consonants, the L and S, are found before the vowel E, the short E. So identical, the environment now becomes identical. When I say identical, similar. The E here and the E here would just be considered similar. So S and L are contrasts in identical environment. Why contrasts? Because they differ. They differ they differ from one another as two different or two separate phonemes or two separate phones. But they belong or they can be found in the same environment both are found before a short vowel E. Clear? So L and S are separate phonemes. And when they become separate phonemes found in identical environment, they are now called contrasts in identical environment. Moving on with send and mend. The same thing, send and mend. They are minimal pairs, right? The S and M are separate phonemes. They are minimal pairs and can be found in they are separate phonemes that can be found in the same environment before the vowel E. So both of which can be found before the vowel E. Right? How about contrast in analogous environment? Look at this. Opa for Brazil. Kaiwa, Brazil. Language spoken in Brazil. Opa, aba. Quite similar because you can find the vowels in the initial and final position, right? But the consonants differ. Why? Only in one environment, or you can find the and letter P and letter B in only one similar environment. But if you would notice, O and A in the initial position are different environment. Okay? These two are different environment. Therefore, the consonants here would become separate phonemes. That is the reason why the contrast is now called an analogous environment. So, contrast in analogous environment. Okay? Let's say in French, this is now elsewhere. The term is elsewhere. When we say elsewhere, we eliminate redundancy with faithfulness. Elsewhere is actually the sound of such phone or that sound, but is not pronounced by the speaker. That is the time that it becomes an elsewhere. For example, The sound is pronounced as, you don't hear anything, right? Because there is a symbol here. There's a circle below. That circle would mean that the sound becomes voiceless. It's quite difficult to produce a voiceless Therefore, the sound is elsewhere. Meaning to say, you are all familiar that letter M here, is pronounced as It's voiced, right? But it becomes elsewhere. Why? Because it is pronounced in another way, becoming voiceless. So, becomes elsewhere. Nandyan lang siya. It's just there. However, the speaker doesn't pronounce it the way it should be pronounced. Similar to l. It's pronounced as a voiceless l. Parang hindi naglalapat yung bibig, no? Now, that l becomes voiceless l would now be an elsewhere again. Meaning to say the proper pronunciation of l is elsewhere. It's just there again, but the speaker doesn't use it. The speaker doesn't pronounce it the way it should be pronounced. So it's elsewhere. Similar to r, which becomes voiceless. Again, that r is elsewhere. So whenever you hear the word elsewhere, so that's the meaning. It's there, but the speaker doesn't use it. Okay? So since he doesn't use it or she doesn't use it, it's elsewhere. It's being pronounced in another way. Okay. Next, so that is basically the principle of faithfulness. If a phoneme occurs in an environment not covered by any other statement for the pronunciation of that phoneme, then it is pronounced the same pronunciation and faithful to its phoneme. It's elsewhere. Now we have the individual work. This is just easy. You only have to watch a video or let's say a YouTube episode or a video, a vlog in English involving a male and a female speaker of English. Meaning to say the words that they have to use, all the things that they have or that they are using would be English. So topics may move around education or relationship with peers, relationship with family members, cultural differences, or food tasting. Okay? There's only one topic that you have to select. Now, you have to take note of 15 content words which each of them says. So there'll be 15 words from a male speaker and 15 words from a female speaker. You make your own table and then transcribe. So there'll be 4 columns. The first column would be the words spoken by the male speaker. The second column would be their transcription, how you learned about transcription. The third column would be the words spoken by the female. And the fourth column would be the transcription again, the phonetic transcription. Take note of the differences. For example, how do they pronounce V or B? How do they pronounce F or P? And other differences. So after making a table, develop 2 paragraphs on the differences that you would see. What do you notice about their differences? Outputs shall be written in a yellow paper to be submitted next meeting. So, since I won't be meeting you on Thursday and you still have classes in other subjects, you only have to leave your paper through your class representative, and the class representative would simply place your outputs on my table at the faculty room. Would that be clear? I hope so. So again, you'll have to make a table. The first column would be 15 words spoken by the male vlogger. And then the second column would be the transcriptions of those words, phonetic transcription. The third column would be 15 words again, spoken by the female vlogger. And then the fourth column would be the transcription. Below the table, write 2 paragraphs on the differences that you would notice. So this will be the criteria for checking. Content is 10 points, organization 5 points, hello, grammar 5 points, mechanics 5 points. All in all, you would have 25 points. So again, this would be your activity, your asynchronous activity for this week, to be submitted next week on my table. If you already have your face-to-face classes in other subjects, just on Thursday. So, I hope that you learned something from our lesson today. Thank you very much, everyone. See you around in the midterms week. Good luck. For the midterms, you only have to be familiar with the IPA chart. So you'll be needing your own IPA chart with you. The IPA that I gave, not the IPA that you used last year, okay? Just the IPA that I gave. And then, take note of transcription. No cheating, alright? Don't ever cheat. What else? There will be multiple choices type, application, there might be an essay type, and so on. All types. Alright? So thank you very much. See you on the midterms week. Thank you. Bye-bye.